Tonight on The Big Story, a shooting incident inside a school in Tacloban City has killed and injured several and left students traumatized. One motive that has floated so far, bullying. A typhoon is inside the Philippines and there is fear again of flood. An expert tells us what it takes to finally solve this persistent problem. Another day, another pretrial conference for VP Duterte's impeachment. Will the historic trial's opening go on as scheduled on July 6? And it looks like Senator Chis Escudero, sitting as impeachment presiding officer, will be challenged by no less than his former allies in the upper chamber.
Kailangan namin yung opposition bilang kami ay minorya. Bilang kami, trabaho namin yun. Hindi ibig sabihin nag-aaway kami, ha? Pero dapat natin tanungin kung papayag ba si Win, si SP Win. Kasi sa konstitusyon, ang nakalagay doon, ang dapat mag-preside, ang Senate President. Siguro, napakalaking parang issue yan para kay Win, para siya ay palitan sa oras na yon. Ang konstitusyon malinaw na siya dapat.
Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon. We begin tonight with an inconceivable crime. Two teenagers went on a shooting spree in their very own high school in Tacloban. They did it in the middle of morning class. When the gunshots stopped, 3 students were dead. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza has tonight's big story.
President Bongbong Marcos has ordered an investigation into the school shooting in the city of Tacloban. 3 teenage students were killed in the incident, while at least 7 others were injured, with 1 in critical condition as of Monday afternoon. In a statement, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the president was saddened by the tragedy and wants a thorough look. Marcos has also directed authorities to ensure safety and security nationwide, offices, public establishments, especially schools. It should have been a normal start of the school week at the San Jose National High School. Instead, a nightmare that began at around 9 o'clock in the morning on Monday, June 22. Gunshots rang out, prompting students and teachers to flee to safety. Several were trapped in the classrooms, and there was panic every inch of the school's grounds. As the shooting went on, authorities and frantic parents arrived. The school was immediately cordoned off. Those injured were immediately brought out and taken to nearby medical facilities. At least 2 of the injured were female students. Authorities were also able to arrest one of the suspects after teachers, students, and parents prevented him from fleeing. A second suspect was turned over by a neighbor. Both are students of the school.
Mga lalaki po ito, nasa 14, 15 po, magkaibigan po ito sila. Random lang po ito na namaril doon sa loob po ng classroom.
The 2 teen suspects are currently undergoing investigation and solid motive is yet to be established. But investigators are now working to reconstruct the sequence of events, including how the young perpetrators managed to bring guns into the school. Recovered were a caliber 38 and a 9mm Glock pistol. At least 40 spent shells were found in the scene of the crime.
Yung school is marami siyang entrance and exit and they only have 1 security guard na deploy. Tapos during the time of incident, nandun sa guard post yung security at around 9 a.m. Kaya siguro hindi nila masyadong strictly na implement yung safety.
Again, probers are still finding out what triggered the violence. According to Tacloban City's Vice Mayor, the suspects may have planned the shooting spree. There is information as well, unverified still, that the suspects may have been victims of bullying.
They did that with intent.
With intent? Okay, ginawa nila with intent.
Actually, pinost nila, nag-selfie sila na nakahampak po sila.
The Education Department has begun giving survivors, both students and teachers, a post-trauma debriefing.
Ngayon mayroong ginagawa tayong mga psychological first aid sa mga teachers kasi nandito pa yung mga teachers. They were also traumatized. And tomorrow and on Wednesday magkakaroon tayo ng psychological first aid sa mga learners natin. Oo.
So, yung mga victims naman, yung family ng mga victims, meron na kaming pinapunta doon na mga personnel from the Department of Education para ma-assist sila.
The Department of Education also expressed grave concern, calling the incident a high alert situation. In a statement, it condemned the violence and extended condolences to the victims' families. Leyte Congressman Martin Romualdez has also expressed deep sorrow over the shooting incident. Romualdez called for swift justice, saying a school should always be a place of learning, safety, and hope. He said no parent should have to endure the pain of losing a child in a place where they are supposed to be protected. This incident is considered highly uncommon for the Philippines. Though there have been shooting incidents in schools, these were normally out of personal grudges and with specific targets. The last time a gunman opened fire in a school was in July 2022 at the Ateneo de Manila University Law School graduation ceremony in Quezon City. That tragedy killed 3 people, including former Lamitan City Mayor Rose Furigay. Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
Let's talk about this incident further with Pasig City Congressman Roman Romulo. Mr. Romulo has been a staunch advocate for safer school environment and a prominent voice against bullying. Welcome to the big story, Congressman Romulo.
Hi, good evening, Ma'am Ses, and to all are watching, listening. Good evening to all.
I recall your guesting here once on the big story where you mentioned bullying as a big problem in our education system. Your reaction to the incident today in Tacloban?
Well, all of us are saddened by what happened, and we were surprised because, as your news mentioned, this is very uncommon in the Philippines. But Ses, you know very well that in the House we have been pushing the Department of Education to strengthen its guidance counseling. In fact, we passed a law on that, and we've been asking the Department of Education about the hires that they have been doing in order for us to be able to provide mental wellness programs in our 45 to 47,000 schools. In fact, also in the with respect to bullying, says if you remember, we also asked the Department of we took a look at the law, and then we determined that the best course forward would be for the DepEd to amend its implementing rules and regulations and to implement that regulations, I guess, more aggressively. So I think after this is all, after all investigations has been done and we know what really transpired, I think we should really ask the DepEd to answer some questions.
Congressman, I remember you pointing out that the Philippines ranked first in that study, the Program for International Student Assessment conducted every 3 years by the OECD. What is causing this to be so widespread, bullying in schools?
Well, it's various reasons. They point out first to the fact that we lack guidance counselors in our schools, and we remedy that situation by expanding. First of all, providing a career for guidance counselors and psychologists to be able to enter our DepEd schools, to widen the mental wellness experts that could provide mental health programs in our various DepEd schools. Another factor people are that was attributed to that was also technology, social media. So I guess at the end of the day, it's really a confluence of various reasons.
Congressman, many countries have now considered putting a limit to the age where you begin to be exposed to social media. Would you consider or are you looking at a measure that would do the same? For instance, Australia and I think Great Britain has passed this law.
Yes, in fact, says before how the House went into Sine Die adjournment, there were various measures already with respect to banning, to regulating the use of even technology, social media for children below certain ages, and that is set to be heard already. But says at the end of the day, there are various laws, there are various implementing rules, but really, the Department of Education must be aggressive in the implementation, and they must really be able to go down and tell and be able to address the various concerns of the DepEd schools. No matter how many laws we pass, no matter how many IRRs we amend, at the end of the day, really the implementation must be aggressively done.
Do you think the DepEd is not too serious in looking at this problem about, or not too aggressive in looking at this problem of bullying?
Well, because probably because there are many issues confronting our Department of Education. That is why it seems that they are all over. But at the end of the day, I think they should really focus on quality of education. They should focus on, and quality of education, with that comes making safe spaces within our schools, making the learning environment very, very safe for students, for teaching and non-teaching personnel, and really aggressiveness in terms of implementing these various reforms, aggressiveness in being able to put all the information out to all those that need to hear this information. I think that should really be doubled up.
What is leading these very young people to violence?
Again, says it's very difficult to pinpoint one particular contributor to that. But again, let's be honest with ourselves. Technology, social media is part of that. Parental guidance is part of that. Maybe the government also should be, DepEd should be very aggressive really with respect to the reforms. So marami talagang contributing factors says eh. That's the family, that's the first thing. I think our parents must also realize that at the end of the day, their children really look up to them, and what they see in their homes, they will carry that outside their place of residence. So it matters really a lot to a child seeing the family set up. And then when they get now to the school, it is important that our DepEd really becomes aggressive, actively showing that it is very important to provide those safe spaces, learning spaces wherein a child and the teaching and non-teaching personnel should be safe.
There was also a stabbing incident in a school in Cavite, and it is reported that the perpetrator was depressed. So, going back to your recommendation on training more guidance counselors and providing more of that service, the psychosocial service to schools, you said we have 47,000 schools nationwide. How doable is it, really? How realistic
Actually,
is that?
we have about 45 to 47,000 DepEd schools. Up to last year or 2 years ago, when we passed that measure, that new mental wellness law, we only had about 500 or to 1,000 registered guidance counselors who actually applied to DepEd to become guidance counselors. That is why that new law first gave a career. It increased the salary grade of registered guidance counselors who will go to our DepEd schools and psychologists. Plus, we had that we created a new position for because we knew we did not have enough registered guidance counselors in the whole Philippines. We don't have enough psychologists. I think there was a time about 2 years ago, the number was about 6 to 7,000 in totality, and that is not enough for the 45,000 DepEd schools. Plus, many of them would probably really either go to private or would not practice at all. So that is why we in fact created school guidance associates. These are those who have not yet taken the masteral programs for RGCs or psychologists, so that we are able to capacitate and then really be able to have a bigger number of mental wellness program advisors in our schools. But the problem there also is, I heard that there is also some red tape in the approval of these positions. That is why I think DepEd together with the DBM should really get their acts together and be able to get these items out so that we can have more guidance counselors or guidance counselors associates. In fact, says for this year, we under the GAA, there's about 10,000 new items there. So I don't thi- I don't think the DepEd has filled those positions simply because they are still waiting for the DBM to be able to provide item or to okay the items. But there is the law was passed 2024. So I think that is why I think I always use the word aggressive. I think DepEd should be very aggressive in really asking the various other government agencies that these are we did not create the law because we just wanted the law. There was really a necessity to
Yes.
create a law. As you mentioned earlier, the PISA results based on their interviews, their surveys show that a lot of learners in the Philippines felt that they were bullied.
Could this incident have been prevented, Congressman, had there been a guidance counselor attending to the needs of the students in the school?
Well, the law was just the new law was just passed 2024, so may gestation period talaga yan. So probably not, but really, if and it's too late to blame anyone for that. But the point is, moving forward now, we should be aggressive in really ensuring that we have enough guidance counselors or associates to be able to cater to the needs of the students, the teaching and non-teaching personnel of our schools. Also, says I think really there must be an aggressive discussion also with the LGUs in terms of the security provided to our schools.
But should the legislature also be aggressive now in looking at the influence of social media? There are photos of the kids brandishing guns on social media. So should you not be more aggressive also in tackling what could be one root cause of
That is
bullying?
correct. That is correct. In fact, I think lawmakers or policymakers must really be able to push social media platforms to be able to to be more age sensitive, to be able to help out, help. Really nation building. We need a lot of help even from the private sector, the platform providers, to ensure that when especially when children are involved, that the materials that are posted should be something that are age appropriate and that we ensure that they do not have access to
Well, in
those.
the absence of a law, Congressman, they won't be really inclined to
Yes.
police their own platforms. But if there is a law, then there can be penalties and
That,
there can be a
that is correct,
collective
says.
effort. Yeah.
That is correct, says. In fact, I've attended numerous hearings already on this particular issue. There have been various bills already filed and it's being heard. And you're right, maybe
Would you
this is
support it?
also a wake-up
Would you
call.
support
Yes.
it?
Oh, 100%, definitely. Yes.
But it's not. Are you a sponsor of the measure?
I've been attending because it has, as chairperson of the Committee on Basic Education, it has effect on our students there. So even this particular, although it's not filed in the Committee on Basic Education, I've been attending that because it is something that I think we really have to ask the platform providers to be able to comply, to be able to also have some policing by themselves. And you're right, a law mandating certain things should be already aggressively pursued.
We thank you for your time, Congressman Roman Romulo of Pasig City. And now overseas, the first round of peace talks between the United States and Iran ended on an encouraging note. At least that's how Pakistani and Qatari mediators described it. In a joint statement, U.S. and Iran negotiators agreed on a roadmap to come up with a permanent peace deal within 60 days. Both parties will also create a mechanism for further technical talks. Washington and Tehran also agreed to prevent military operations in Lebanon, where fighting between Iranian ally Hezbollah and Israel are complicating matters. America's delegation, led by Vice President J.D. Vance, and Iranian negotiators headed by Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, recently met at a mountaintop resort in Switzerland. Amid the talks, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to strike Iran if it does not stop alleged paid proxies in Lebanon. But Vance said Trump wants to change relations in the Middle East.
What the president has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf, to transform our relationship with the people of Iran and to extend an outstretched hand. If they are willing to give up nuclear weapons ambitions for the long term, then the United States is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country.
Well, first of all, we've seen great progress over the last just couple of days in ensuring that the ceasefire holds in Lebanon. These things are always a little bit messy. The president has committed us to see a full regional ceasefire. We found great partners in working with the Qataris, the Pakistanis, our friends in Israel. We're all working towards regional peace.
Renewed tensions in Lebanon caused Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz again. This is where almost all of Philippine fuel is transited. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin said they won't sit idly while Hormuz is in an unpredictable state.
There are reports that says there's peace, then the next day there's reports that there's bombings, and then the next day naman may closure, and then next day inaalaw na naman. So DOE has always took the stand na they can understand that we prepare for the worst. And for that, we are not letting up. Hindi po kami nagkakampante dyan. Because we cannot relax until it's very, very clear for us, very, very clear for our country that wala nang disruptions caused by the Middle East war.
For now, motorists can expect rollbacks tomorrow. Gasoline will be cheaper by about 4 pesos per liter, while diesel and kerosene could be cut by 9 pesos per liter. You're watching The Big Story on One News. When we return, the details of this story.
Meron na tayong plano para maglagay ng dam sa taas. Patuloy lang ang ginagawa natin para hindi na maulit yung napakalaking perwisyo nung pagdaan ng bagyo.
Di naman tense, that's usual. That's usual in pre-trial, you know, even in the RTC, ganyan yan, no? So, wala naman. It's really nothing out of the ordinary.
That's how defense lawyer Michael Poa described the pre-trial conference so far for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. We'll have updates on this story later on in the program. But first, the weather. Typhoon Francisco has intensified and is now nearing super typhoon category. The latest Pag-asa bulletin shows the eye east of Tuguegarao, Cagayan. Strong to typhoon force winds extend outwards up to 360 kilometers from the center. The typhoon is currently moving west-northwest at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Signal number 1 is up over Batanes and the northeastern portion of Cagayan, including the eastern portion of Babuyan Islands. As Francisco intensifies, it enhances the habagat or southwest monsoon. This is bringing occasional rains to other parts of Luzon, including Metro Manila, Visayas, and Mindanao. In the National Capital Region, the showers even resulted in flooding in some areas. For a watershed governance expert, worsening floods aren't just about heavier rainfall volumes. It is a manifestation of our damaged natural flood buffers. And joining us on the big story tonight is Dr. Rex Victor Cruz, a watershed management and climate change adaptation expert. Good evening and welcome to the big story, Dr. Cruz.
Good evening, Cess, and thank you for having me in your program.
First, it's that season again.
Yep.
It's that time of the year. Are we better off in Metro Manila dealing with the flooding season compared to last year?
I'd like to believe that we are, because flooding is such a serious problems that we're dealing with year in and year out. And you know, there's been so many studies and so many plans that were already drawn. And yes, I'm hoping really that I'm optimistic that we're better this year, but we'll see.
You shared some slides with us, and we'd like to look at the first slide, which just shows the growth of population or development in Metro Manila. So you participated in a master plan, in a drafting of a master plan. But tell us more about it.
Yeah, this is actually about the Manila Bay Master Plan. It's a Manila Bay Sustainable Development Master Plan, which we started preparing way back in 2017, and which we completed somewhere around 2020, 2021. And that was all about really drawing up a plan for ensuring that Manila Bay, is sustainable despite all the economic activities that are taking place, within the basin where the water of Manila Bay are actually coming from, or where the fresh water are draining into Manila Bay, and which is influencing the quality of water and ecosystems in Manila Bay. But at the same time also, that plan covered some aspects within the Metro Manila itself, including flooding, including settlements, including urbanization in general. Yeah.
You always say this, and it is true, that we should not treat Metro Manila as an just an administrative area, but rather look at it more holistically. Can you explain how the environment around Metro Manila affects the flooding here? Konting ulan lang, like we just had, we're not even near the eye of the storm, and there was flooding last night.
Right. Yeah. Well, just like many other local government units, Manila is a part of a bigger landscape unit. Such as, for instance, it's mostly within what we call the Pasig Laguna Lake Basin. It's a big watershed. Where the water originates from the slopes of Sierra Madre, on the side of Rizal and on the side of Laguna. And at the same time, also water flowing down from Cavite watersheds, Bataan watersheds, you know.
Even Bataan.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Kahit yung we're not affected by just the rain pouring
Yeah.
where we live, where the cities are, but
Yeah.
coming from those mountain ranges.
Right. But for Metro Manila, most of the water is just coming from the slopes of Sierra Madre, basically.
Okay.
Sierra Madre, yeah.
But is something being done to be able to manage that flow? You advocate a ridge to reef
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, what we need really is it's a basin, it's a basin approach, basin strategy, so that we can address the different sources of floodwaters that are being generated in Metro Manila. And one of the major sources of floodwaters coming down from the slopes of Sierra Madre, such as from Marikina watershed, which is basically water that where the water flowing down Pasig River is coming from, 81% of it. And the rest of the Pasig River water is actually coming from Laguna Lake.
But does that water from Pasig eventually end up in Manila Bay
Manila
or
Bay.
through Manila Bay?
In Manila Bay, that's right, right.
So, ano po ang holistic na solution that's sustainable and that is also, aside from science-based, also nature-based?
Right. Yeah, if you look at the flooding problem in Metro Manila,
What are the main causes
yeah,
muna? Sige, before we...
there are, let me see, three types of flooding that we can talk about. One is what we call the riverine flooding or the overflowing of riverbanks.
Okay.
And we can talk about the overflow of Pasig River, and the overflow of Tuliahan River, which is
in Quezon City.
yeah, in Quezon City,
Bulacan.
Malabon, Navotas, area, and Caloocan, and this is what we call the riverine flooding, overflowing of the riverbanks, and usually it's caused by, well, excessive runoff that is being generated by large amount of rainfall, but at the same time also compounded by what you said, sedimentation, and also constriction of the rivers by
the mouth of the river?
not,
or just
not necessarily the
bank?
mouth,
Which-
the banks of the rivers, where you have illegal
Settlers.
structures, settlers and other structures that are built, along the stream banks. And then there is also a flooding that is caused by the rapid accumulation of surface runoff in areas that are dominated by concrete and asphalt, where water doesn't have any place to go. It cannot infiltrate into the soil because the soil is definitely, is completely plugged. And so just with little rain, falling down, even with no rains up there in the mountains of Sierra Madre, a lot of areas in Manila will be flooded because the water has no place
Konkreto
to
na
go.
lahat.
Exactly. Walang puntahan yung tubig, naiipon lang talaga on the surface of the ground.
May pangatlo pa ba?
And then the third, of course, is let's not forget the coastal flooding. Okay, the flooding that is
Pag high tide, no?
during high tide, and at the same time also during storms. We have the storm surge. That's right. And of course, let's not forget climate change that is causing sea level rise. So we have coastal flooding, we have riverine
So
flooding.
these are the
yeah.
four types
Yeah.
of flooding.
So these are all problems that are.
Let's go to the riverbank. Ang solusyon dyan na ginagawa ay yung flood control. Yung lagyan ng, di ba? Concrete and what do you call those? Those things that go deep. Kaya nagka-skandalo.
Oh,
Yung, anyway, what?
Piles, is it?
Yes, the
Yeah.
piles that didn't really go deep. But is that a sound solution, the engineering intervention?
Well, structural measures, engineering measures, they have important roles to play, because other people are saying, maybe it's not working very well, and we need to resort to nature-based solutions. No? Both of them are, they have their functions to.
They can be complementary.
That's right, right. They can be blended, and they can be more effective actually when they go together. Now, that is one, that is one way.
But what's a nature-based solution that's not too costly that can be effective?
Yeah, nature-based solution, examples of that will be reforestation, for instance, where you try to put back the forest, up there in the
Sierra Madre.
yeah, in the Sierra Madre, where most of the forests
Is
have
that
been.
being done?
Sorry?
Is that being done?
Yeah, I think the government is
But
still
not
working on
as
that.
fast.
Not as fast, and not as not as effective or efficient as we want them. But yeah, the government is doing its best. And then also stream bank rehabilitation. Now, stream banks are supposed to have what we call the riparian vegetation that grows along the stream.
Vegetation.
Yeah, along the stream banks, but
Not concrete.
not concrete.
Stream
but
bank, what's it called, Dr. Cruz?
stream banks, river banks, riparian, that's riparian, riparian zones.
Parang riprap.
Yeah, no, it's,
No,
it's
that's
different, yeah, different, yeah.
Okay. What kind of vegetation?
There are many different kinds of vegetation along the riverbanks, but most of those are, water-loving plants.
Not
Smaller plants, not
water
trees.
lilies,
No,
that
yeah.
block the flow.
In some riverbanks, you have naturally growing bamboos. Yeah.
Who's
so-
doing that? Which LGU is doing that in Metro Manila?
You know what? I
Wala.
can remember. No. I think Parañaque, has done that. I remember Senator Cynthia Villar, was
Okay.
actually doing that
But
for
this is
Parañaque.
something that should be looked into. Was it part of your master plan that you worked with DepDev?
I don't think we have, we have strategies identified for stream bank rehabilitation. No, unless it was, I can't remember anymore.
Pero
There's so many projects. of them.
magbubungkal ka ng concrete,
Yeah, but
right? Because
I
now
don't
the
think you-
solution is concrete. Put
yeah,
concrete
but
barriers.
but if there's already concrete structures there, I think better to just leave
to
it there.
just leave it.
We just do the stream bank rehabilitation where there's still areas or spaces to plant natural vegetation to grow. Yeah.
Okay, how about the surface runoff? What can be done? Ito naman is connected to drainage.
Correct.
And I guess pumping stations.
Right.
So-
Right. Tulyahan, for instance, Tulyahan River, has a lot of pumping stations. Although not most of them are not working, but a lot are still working, and it's effective. Actually, it's effective. In Parañaque, I think they have also some pumping stations, but they are limited by by volumes of solid waste. See, if you have solid waste, in the streams, and you have pumps to operate, pumps will not operate when you have solid waste to clog your pumps. No? So it has to be.
So that is another problem, the solid waste.
Yeah, solid waste management is a really major problem related to flooding, because they can clog both natural and the artificial or structural drainage systems like esteros, for instance. So that has to be addressed. I'm not very particular about the progress in solid waste management in Metro Manila, but when we were doing the master plan, there's
This
really
is
a big problem.
a picture of a landfill, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a landfill. Yeah, or not sure if it's a landfill area. It looks like in the coastal area, so it's probably an open dump site. Yeah.
Okay.
And open dump sites are are
Also,
it's not a good it's not a good facility to manage our solid waste. Yeah.
What is the solution to? So, what is the long term? What should be a good solid waste program for an LGU to adopt?
the best that we have, as of the moment, still is landfill. Not everybody is happy with landfill, of course, but still, it's the best that we have. If we want to really have a good grasp on solid waste management, we have really to consider, the thermal.
So the law has to be amended.
Well, I don't think it has to be amended. If I remember it right,
because we ban incinerators.
I don't think it's actually banned. If I can recall it right, the Supreme Court already had, passed. It's how do you call that? They already
Allowed.
clarified, that it's not really, prohibited in the Solid Waste Management Act. No.
So are you for incinerators?
I have seen big incinerators for instance, in the Netherlands. They really work well, and they really manage very well. It's not totally free from any problems like emissions of gases.
But landfill
still,
is much worse.
Yeah,
We had
right.
that landfill in Malabon that burned for months.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
solid waste management really is a big one, if we want to address flooding, because it's compounding the issue of insufficiency of our drainage systems that can flush out the high volumes of runoff. So,
Dr. Rex, you recently had a conference to encourage more harmonization among government agencies. What's the status of that? Because right now we see that there's a patchwork of solutions. All these agencies can be working at cross purposes even if they're addressing the same problem.
right. Well, one of the things that we are really pushing to promote greater collaboration and harmonization, integration of efforts across government agencies is really to work together, to have a common plan, common action plan. For Metro Manila, for instance, we have the master plan for Manila Bay. It is a plan that can be used as framework for.
You already have the plan.
Yeah, we have
but
it.
it's just there in the library.
It's a plan that can be used as a framework for coordinated actions across government agencies, whether it's related to human settlements, whether it's related to waste management or water quality management and so on. It's something that can be used. And there are other plans as well that are being or are already available from government agencies like DNR. DNR have updated most of the river basin master plans, and river basin master plans are good framework.
But who will be the conductor? Who will organize so that they will follow? The president, maybe? He should call a summit, or the secretary of
Well,
the environment?
Yeah. For me, ideally, it's the president. If the president says that this is the way that we should go, we should use the river basin master plans as a framework, or we should use whatever plans there are, that are landscape based or something like that. That they better use that. Better use a common framework of reference, for taking actions or investing on projects such as flood control, for instance. Yeah.
Is it frustrating, Dr. Rex, as a scientist, to see that you have all the studies already, but it's not being put to good use?
Well, I've been in advocacy work for a long time, more than 30 years. But I understood, I understand very well, the dynamics, and the nuances related to transferring or transforming scientific findings or science, to policy actions. It's not unique to the Philippines. I tried to research on that, because I was beginning to be disheartened, by the difficulty of really pushing science, to influence policies. And just found out that there are really important scientific findings or breakthroughs, that takes decades and sometimes centuries, to influence policy action. So I'm not discouraged. I'm just
You're still at it. You're here with us.
I'm still
Okay.
motivated to go on with my advocacy. So we'll see.
Hopefully, the government is listening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights. That was Dr. Rex Victor Cruz, watershed management and climate change adaptation expert. At this point, we bring you more stories making headlines this Monday. Here's the report.
For a third time, resigned Ateneo Blue Eagles coach Tab Baldwin was a no-show at the National Bureau of Investigation. Instead, he is expected at the NBI on Tuesday, June 23. He did not give a reason for skipping appearance at the Bureau. Baldwin said he was not in good condition the first time he failed to satisfy summons from the NBI. For the second reschedule, he cited his commitment with the PNP CIDG on Friday, June 19. On Monday, June 22, only 2 lawyers turned up in the NBI's parallel probe into the drowning of student athletes Rene Baterbonia and Divine Adili. These were the attorneys of assistant coach CJ Alumba and the student manager Paulo Adivoso. Attorney Levi Baligod, who represents the alleged bagmen of fugitive ex-lawmaker Zaldico, backtracked on his camp's accusation that Senator Kiko Pangilinan received suitcases of kickbacks from the flood control scandal.
Lumabas yung picture doon because maraming mga pictures ito, no? Malamang yung gumawa ng presentation na isang staff nila ay naisama yon, no? Staff po nila. Wag na akong mag-ascribe kung sino nang nagkamali doon, no?
Can you categorically deny if
Hindi kami ang nag-prepare nun. Nung nilabas ngayon, hindi nag-comment eh. Walang nag-comment sa aming lahat. No? Ang sinabi ko lang dun sa nag-ooperate ng projector, you move forward, sabi ko.
Baligod and his clients were at the DOJ on June 22 to submit their rejoinder in the cyber libel and libel cases filed against them by Congresswoman Laila de Lima, Bucor Chief Gregorio Catapang Jr., and former Senator Sonny Trillanes. The DOJ said preliminary investigation has already concluded. It will now decide whether or not these cases will be filed in court. Also on Monday, President Marcos inspected some government projects in Cebu. These include the rehabilitation of parts of the Metro Cebu Expressway in Naga City, which was delayed due to a landslide, and a flood control project along Mananga River, which was badly hit by Typhoon Tino last year.
Meron na tayong plano para maglagay ng dam sa taas. Dito sa Mananga River is a 70 meter dam. At ito ay ilalagay na namin, nasa NEP na. Patuloy lang ang ginagawa natin para hindi na maulit yung napakalaking perwisyo nung pagdaan ng bagyo, ng Tino.
This is a big story on One News. What do former allies of Senator Chis Escudero in the minority bloc have to say about him as impeachment presiding officer?
Kailangan namin i-oppose yun bilang kami ay minorya. Hindi ibig sabihin nag-aaway kami, ha?
Mga lalaki po ito, nasa 14, 15 po, magkaibigan po ito sila. Random lang po ito na namaril doon sa loob po ng classroom.
Yung school is marami siyang entrance and exit and they only have one security guard na na-deploy. Tapos during the time of incident, nandun sa guard post yung security at around 9 a.m. Kaya siguro hindi nila masyadong strictly na-implement yung safety.
Now on to more stories. The legal team of Vice President Sara Duterte wants the impeachment trial to go on for only 30 days. But the prosecution wants 2 months. News 5's Marian Enriquez tells us why.
On day 2 of the Duterte impeachment pre-trial conference, the House prosecution panel immediately debunked certain information circulating about their team. One of them, that lead House prosecutor Jervy Luistro, was allegedly eaten alive or dominated by attorney Sheila Season during closed-door proceedings last June 18. Season is the lead defense counsel of Vice President Sara Duterte.
I charged it to fake news, and the people should become very cautious now in watching from the social media. We should be careful in deciphering what is correct and what is false. Of course, I am conscious that I am representing the interests of the sovereign Filipino people. Hindi po ako papayag na lamunin ng buhay ang laban ng sambayan ng Pilipino.
Lawyers gathered together in a room, you can expect that, no? It will be unusual if there will be no exchanges between lawyers. So nothing unusual, nothing extraordinary. It's something that you expect whenever lawyers discuss.
Speaking of lawyers, the prosecution panel introduced their legal spokesperson, attorney Benjamin Tolosa Jr. He is founding and managing partner at the Tolosa, Javier Lim and Chua law firm, a trial lawyer with 2 decades of experience. Tolosa shared that when the pre-trial conference began, the defense team immediately brought up the 2/3 threshold needed in voting to convict VP Sara.
That was quickly shut down by Kong Luistro by pointing out, no, that's not a matter that could be decided by the clerk of court, no, and it should not be used to delay the pre-trial conference. It's possible that this is an issue that may come up during the proceedings. No, it would not be proper for us to talk about it at this point.
Tolosa also said the prosecution requested for 62 trial dates so they can sufficiently lay down all pieces of evidence. The defense only requested 30 days. Both sides presented 51 common witnesses and 248 common exhibits. On the side of the prosecution panel, spokesperson Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong said they will first present Duterte's assassination plot against the first family, since video for that will speak for itself. Next are allegations against the Vice President of confidential fund misuse and bribery. Last to be presented in trial, Duterte's supposed unexplained wealth. There is also a manifestation asking the Senate impeachment court to direct the defense team to comply with the guidelines and explain specifically why they adopted the witnesses of the prosecution panel. The panel said the defense only indicated the general purpose, which is to disprove the allegations.
It appears now that sila ngayon nag-fishing expedition because we want the witnesses to appear before the court na initially talagang witnesses natin, and then we don't exactly know, and the court does not exactly know what would be the purpose by which they are to be treated as the hostile witness.
It's still a long way to go for the impeachment pre-trial conference. There are 4,000 documentary evidence needed to be marked from both the prosecution and defense sides. The Senate Secretary hopes to be finished with this by Tuesday, June 23. That's so they could finally submit a pre-trial order by Thursday, June 25, including the summation of the pre-trial conference, points of agreement with both parties, and the roadmap or direction of the trial. The 2 camps will be allowed to summon even surprise witnesses as long as the other party is notified about the development 3 days prior. At this point, the impeachment trial of Vice President Duterte is still on track to open by July 6. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Senator Robin Padilla says the minority bloc will oppose any move to designate Senator Cheese Escudero as presiding officer in the Duterte impeachment trial.
Kailangan namin i-oppose yun bilang kami ay minorya. Bilang kami, trabaho namin yun. Hindi ibig sabihin nag-aaway kami. Pero dapat natin tanungin kung papayag ba si Win, si SP Win. Kasi sa konstitusyon, ang nakalagay doon, ang dapat mag-preside, ang Senate President. Siguro, napakalaking parang issue yan para kay Win, para siya ay palitan sa oras na yon. Ang konstitusyon malinaw na siya dapat.
The Constitution is only clear on who gets to preside when the President is on trial, the Chief Justice, but is silent when another impeachable officer like the VP is the accused. During the impeachment of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona in 2012, then Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile presided. And in the first Duterte impeachment trial last year, it was Escudero who took the gavel. But he got flack for delaying the trial because the Senate received the articles of impeachment at the tail end of the 19th Congress. Senator Ping Lacson earlier said Escudero could be presiding officer, but Senate President Win Gatchalian clarified this is not final yet. On a lighter note, and before we go, Alex Ayala is back on court. The Filipina tennis phenom takes on Belgium's Elise Mertens in the back Homburg Open as she continues her grass court campaign. Watch Ayala tonight at 11:30 p.m. live on Premier Sports 2 channel 273 HD on Signal. Alex is riding into tonight's match officially placed at world number 30, owing mainly to her performance in the Berlin Open. And those are the big stories this Monday, June 22nd. I'm Orenia Drilon. Kapatid, we are One News, your side all the time. Good night.